And now it is my pleasure to introduce a vibrant, familiar face to the Leadership Forum audience. Please welcome the Minister of Municipal Affairs, the Honorable Josie Osborne.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. And I'd like to thank Gabby for the warm introduction. And for those of you that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Josie Osborne, and I am BC's new Minister of Municipal Affairs. I'm just thrilled to be joining you virtually from the traditional territory of the Hupetchesset and Sashat First Nations. I'm here in Port Alberni in my new constituency office, and I really want to thank the Local Government Leadership Academy for inviting me to speak today. And I so wish we could be here together in person. But despite the fact that we can't, I'm happy that I'm able to come in virtually, and I'm very impressed with all the technology and the support. And it sounds like the conference has been going so well. The LGLA plays a really important role for local government elected officials and for First Nations and senior administrators. And I'm really happy to see how LGLA was able to adapt and change, like we've all been perfecting in the last while, and move the annual Leadership Forum online, because I know just how valued this forum is by local government elected officials. And I'm also thrilled to say that this is technically my 9th LGLA Leadership Forum. And my first was back in February 2013 when I was a brand new mayor of Tofino, and the very first local government conference that I actually ever attended. And during my years as mayor, I never missed the opportunity to attend this Leadership Forum. It's kind of ironic, but it's actually a nice bookend, I think, to my municipal career, that the last local government conference that I attended in person was actually the Leadership Forum. And it was 2020. It was a year ago, almost to the day, in Richmond. And we had such a fantastic time at that. But, you know, during that time, I think we didn't realize what was about to take place. And I always found immense value in attending the Leadership Forum, learning local government best practices with friends and colleagues from across the province. And I'm really thrilled that I'm able to continue that in my new role as the Minister of Municipal Affairs. And I know, too, that support from our colleagues is so important right now. This year's Leadership Forum, the theme of leading in unprecedented times, is another example of how important it is to come together, even virtually, to learn from and collaborate with each other, because COVID-19 has changed life as we know it. And it has brought personal loss, it's brought economic loss, it's forced us to change the way we do business, it's forced us to change the way that we interact with each other. But most of all, I think it's really reminded us of our collective responsibility to ensure that the health and safety of our neighbors and our families and our friends is protected. And from the beginning, local government elected officials have been on the front lines of this effort. At the start of the pandemic, I was right where you are, working at the local government level as the mayor of Tofino. And I've often reflected, and I'm sure that you have too, that when we signed up, when we put our names forward back in October 2018 for the municipal elections, none of us could have known that we would be confronted with a global pandemic a little over a year into our term of office. And so when we gathered here a year ago at the LGLA Forum, we were hardly even speaking about the very few, maybe 4 COVID-19 cases that had cropped up in BC by that time. And here we are a year later. And you are all working so hard to support the people in your communities. And not only have you faced this pandemic challenge, you have risen to it. And the people at home in your cities and your towns and the rural areas of BC are better served because of your leadership. Times of crises do challenge us all. And over this past year, first as mayor and now as minister, I have been amazed by the leadership and the dedication and the care that local government elected officials like you have demonstrated as we're navigating these challenging times. And as Minister of Municipal Affairs, I am deeply committed to working tirelessly on behalf of and alongside you and local governments to help build back our economies and keep your citizens healthy and safe. And I'm really encouraged to hear about the many ways that local governments have found to deliver the important services that people are counting on, and the way that you are continuing to help your communities develop and continuing to provide core services such as safe drinking water, but also focusing on the sometimes overlooked intangibles like helping seniors with technology that helps them stay connected, or moving youth groups online, or helping people in your community find new ways to get physical and mental health breaks, the breaks that we all need. And the importance of this holistic approach during an ongoing crisis can't be understated. I've heard many, many terrific examples of how local governments are doing just this. So in Clearwater, they moved guitar lessons online. They've been doing beekeeping lessons online. And in Fernie, they threw a heck of a Canada Day celebration online. In Kelowna, the outdoor ice rink reopened while still following COVID protocols. And if we're going to talk about ice rinks, I have to mention Tofino, because they brought in a covered outdoor synthetic ice rink that was a hit with families and kids during some of the wettest months of the year. So I do know that this pandemic has been as hard on you as community leaders, and I want to take a moment to tell you sincerely that I am here for you and I'm here to listen to your concerns. Community members are looking to their leaders, to you, for strength, and you are delivering. There are many different kinds of resources that are available to you and your staff, and I do encourage you to reach out to our ministry if you need more information. We are all in this together, and we're going to continue to need to work together to get through the pandemic. And through the regular calls that I'm having with mayors and with regional district chairs and other city officials, continuing on the great precedent that was set by Minister Robinson when she was serving in this position, and initiated weekly then bi-weekly calls with officials across the province, I've had the chance to hear directly from some of you who are listening right now, about the challenges that you're facing, as well as many of your accomplishments. And I've seen how one local government's idea has inspired another, and how communities have followed each other, and finding ways to make solutions work locally and learning from each other. And I think that this is a demonstration of leadership at its finest. It's the spirit of collaboration that we've tried to bring in our government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic as well. And so when local governments identify challenges in safely holding meetings, we made changes to create flexibility for meeting procedures and public hearings so that you could continue doing the important work, the important government business that you must do in compliance with public health rules, while keeping your community informed. And when you told us that you needed provincial help on liquor licensing to support your efforts to help restaurants and pubs in your communities with more outdoor seating, we helped with the temporary expansion of service areas and patios so businesses could continue to meet Dr. Henry's mandates as they begin to recover from the impact of COVID-19. We're making changes, working together to support your communities. And our government knows that strong communities are the backbone of the economy, and they're going to be key as we move into recovery. So we're committed to partnering with you to support your communities through the pandemic. And since last March, we've taken many other steps to support people during the crisis and work to ensure that local governments have the tools that you need. And the importance of working together, I don't think it's ever been more evident than the recent efforts we've all been making to help protect people dealing with homelessness. And by partnering with municipalities and nonprofits in about 31 communities across BC, we've been able to work together to provide new temporary shelter spaces, new extreme weather response shelter spaces, and help those who are facing homelessness. And it's important to say that we recognize that shelters are not long-term solutions, and we know that there's immediate need for more supportive homes across BC, which is why my new colleague, David Eby, the Attorney General and Minister responsible for housing, is continuing to work with local governments to find more permanent solutions for those in need. I'm really thrilled to be working with Minister Eby. He and I are going to make a great team alongside the rest of Cabinet in helping to address these really, really pressing challenges. And as public health officials work to disseminate COVID vaccines, we're continuing to work towards recovery, and we're aware that local governments are facing new challenges too. And one of those challenges is the pandemic's impact on revenues. And I remember I saw firsthand just how acutely the pandemic impacted the flow of revenue to local governments. And that's revenue that you are relying on to provide essential services for people in your communities. I actually remember with distinct clarity the moment last March when we realized that months of work that we had done throughout the winter in preparing our 2020 budget, which we all thought was the best work we'd ever done in terms of public engagement and communications, that work just unraveled before our eyes. And these are moments that really test us as community leaders. And despite all that work that we were so proud of, there was nothing else we could do but roll up our sleeves, start taking stock of all the uncertainties, our community's needs, the looming May 15th tax deadline to set the tax rates, complete the budget. And like all of you, we were concerned about people's ability to pay their tax bills come July. We were concerned about the revenue that we were sure to lose as we watched playgrounds and community halls close to recreation programs. We asked visitors not to visit Tofino. And we had no crystal ball to predict the amount of increased costs that we might be facing because of the pandemic. Our staff worked overtime to present council with a rebuilt budget. I attended the weekly calls with Selena Robinson alongside the other mayors and chairs to tell her about our cash flow challenges and our deep concern about providing essential services in the face of reduced revenues. But I also know that Tofino's story is not unique, and I know that each of your local governments faced a similar situation. And that's why the province provided matching funds with federal dollars to invest a total of $540 million to help BC communities address local challenges resulting from COVID-19. And as you all know, about $425 million of that was directly distributed to municipalities and regional districts across British Columbia to help with operating costs and the ongoing response to the broad impacts of the pandemic. However, some of this was reserved and is still coming forth. And so an additional $100 million will support local governments to address the needs of vulnerable populations and the challenges posed in local communities by homelessness. That's the Strengthening Communities Fund, and we will be releasing details on this very soon. Another $15 million will go to continue the work that's identified through the Development Approvals Process Review, or DAPR, as we call it, to support innovative local government efforts to improve the efficiency of development approval processes. Again, in the context of providing people with homes. And we're expecting to announce funding intakes for both of these programs in the coming weeks, so please stay tuned. We know that it is important not only to support local governments through the pandemic, but also to help set you up for strong recovery and help yourselves set up for strong recovery. And so to assist in that effort, we have invested in new community infrastructure programs that provide jobs, stimulate local economies in the face of the pandemic. And so I've been even contacted just as recently as this morning by some of you, when will we find out? And we will be announcing the successful applicants to the CEREP program, the Community Economic Recovery Infrastructure Program, in the coming weeks with projects that are focused on community economic resilience. And then, as you also know, we've just recently closed applications for a new fund, the COVID-19 Resilience Infrastructure Program, or CVRIS, which is jointly funded by the province and the federal government under the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. And that is money that will support communities in rehabilitating or modifying existing buildings to respond to public health requirements that have been created by COVID-19 to address active transportation needs and to develop disaster mitigation processes. So we know that this past year has been a huge challenge for you on the ground locally, and that it's going to continue to take all orders of government working together to ensure that communities are resilient and can emerge stronger from the pandemic. You are the greatest advocates for your communities, and I want you to know that our government is listening and values your opinion. And as Premier Horgan has said a number of times, good ideas come from everywhere. So I want you to know that our government is committed to making sure that those ideas are heard from every corner of the province. And what you share from your experiences will be important as we continue to fight the pandemic and move forward. I know that earlier today you heard from some of my colleagues from the BC Liberal Party and the BC Green Party on their ideas to recover and move forward, and we are listening to them as well. I think many of you know me, you know that I am a collaborative person, and you know that I really believe and understand that the only way we're going to ensure that our province emerges from this stronger than before is if we all work together. And so while our focus right now is on protecting people from COVID-19, our government's priorities have not changed. And we continue to be committed to building a strong and resilient and innovative economy that leaves nobody behind, that is taking action on climate change, addressing the rights of Indigenous peoples, and tackling inequity. I am so looking forward to working with you over the coming months and years to ensure that BC is a place that works for everybody. And I wish the LGLA ongoing success as you provide elected officials and senior administrators with comprehensive and timely and dedicated leadership development opportunities. I'm really looking forward to the day when we all get to gather again in the same room and we're able to share best practices and inspiring conversations like we always do at LGLA. I have made some of my best friends and met so many new professional colleagues in my years of participating at the LGLA leadership forums. I know those opportunities are continuing for you today, even though we're doing this virtually. And I want to thank you once again for the opportunity to join you today. So thank you.